Welcome back to Declutter Shift. If your home still feels messy, even though you clean all the time, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because some habits that look organized are actually making things worse and quietly draining your energy. I learned this the hard way by studying how Japanese people approach minimalism and everyday order. In Japan, decluttering isn't about cleaning more or being strict with yourself, it's about choosing habits that truly reduce effort over time. Most of us clean just to feel in control, not because it actually works. That's why the mess keeps coming back and why we end up blaming ourselves again and again. In today's video, I'll break down 12 common but counterproductive decluttering habits and show you how to reverse them using simple practical lessons inspired by Japanese minimalism, so your home can feel lighter without you having to clean more. Number 1, let's start with the habit that looks productive, feels responsible, but actually does almost nothing to keep your home from getting messy. Making your bed right after waking up feels productive. It looks tidy, it's familiar, and it gives you a quick win, so most people do it. But in Japan, many people don't make their bed first thing in the morning. Not because they're lazy, but because the bed isn't what creates daily mess. It doesn't get worse while you're gone. The kitchen counter does. The chair with clothes does. When you use your morning energy on the bed, you're fixing something that wasn't a problem. Later, when it's time to deal with real clutter, you're already tired and the mess comes back. So try this instead. Leave the bed, open a window, pull the covers back, and move on. Use that first bit of energy on one area that actually stays messy. That's how Japanese minimalism saves effort, not adds more work. Tomorrow, I'll keep going with even more habits that quietly make your home harder to manage, so make sure you come back for the next one. The benefit is simple but powerful. You stop chasing the feeling of looking organized and start creating changes that last. Your home feels easier to manage and you don't begin the day already drained. Less effort, less frustration, and a much lighter mental load. This habit makes your home look clean, but the mess never really disappears. When things start piling up, the easiest move is to push them into a drawer, a cabinet, or a storage box. The room looks tidy, so you feel done. But in reality, nothing was organized. You didn't decide where things belong, you just moved the clutter out of sight. After a while, those hidden spaces get full. Drawers don't slide smoothly. Cabinets are packed. Boxes turn into random piles of things you rarely use but keep carrying from place to place. Cleaning starts to feel annoying because every time you open storage, it's a mess again. The problem isn't storage. It's using storage as a hiding place instead of a limit. So here's the shift. Choose one drawer or one container and give it a clear purpose. Only keep what fits comfortably. If something new comes in and there's no space, something else has to go. That's how storage is supposed to work. When you stop hiding clutter and start limiting it, your home stays cleaner with less effort. Storage becomes easy to use, things are easier to find, and clutter stops building up behind closed doors. It never feels like clutter at first, it just feels convenient. You come home and drop your bag on a chair, you change clothes and leave them there. Keys land on the table. Nothing looks serious because each item is small and just for now. But by the end of the day, surfaces are covered, chairs can't be used, and you're already stepping around things. The problem with letting this continue is that your home slowly loses function. Chairs stop being chairs, tables stop being usable. You spend time every day moving the same items just to do normal things, eating, sitting, working. The mess isn't big, but it's constant, and that's what makes it exhausting. Here's the shift. Don't let items stop halfway. Everything needs a real final spot, not nearby, not later, but where it actually belongs. Bags go on hooks, clothes go in the closet or laundry, keys go to one fixed place. When items complete that last step, clutter doesn't get a chance to build. The effect is immediate and visible. Surfaces stay clear. Rooms work the way they're supposed to. You stop tidying the same spots over and over, and daily life feels smoother without extra effort. And once items stop landing on chairs and tables, another issue becomes obvious. Many flat surfaces have quietly turned into storage. That's what we'll fix next. You can clean your whole house and still feel like something is floating around, never quite settled. Some items don't clearly belong anywhere, so they keep drifting. One day they're on the table, the next day on a chair, then pushed onto a shelf. You're not leaving them out on purpose, you just don't know where they should live. The problem with letting this continue is that these items never fully disappear from your space. They're always in the way, always part of the mess, and they make rooms feel unfinished no matter how much you clean. You end up constantly moving the same objects without ever resolving them. Here's the shift. Every item needs one clear, permanent home, not a temporary spot, not where there's room. One specific place it always returns to. If you can't name that place easily, the item doesn't get to stay in your home. The result is noticeable right away. Items stop wandering, surfaces stay clearer, and cleaning finally feels complete instead of endless. Your home starts to feel settled, not constantly in motion. And once everything has a clear place to return to, another pattern often shows up. Certain areas are being used for too many different purposes at once. That's where clutter starts spreading again, and that's what we'll look at next. It usually doesn't start as a problem, it starts as a shortcut. You keep taking without noticing. One drawer slowly becomes the place for anything you don't know where to put. One shelf holds a little bit of everything. One corner turns into the default drop zone whenever you're in a hurry. Each time feels harmless because it's just one more item. The problem with letting this continue is that the space stops working. Nothing is easy to find anymore. Items get mixed together, and even simple tasks take longer because you have to search, move things aside, or dig through clutter. That one area quietly becomes a mess you avoid dealing with even though you interact with it every day. The shift comes from narrowing the role of the space. Instead of letting it handle everything, give it one clear job. One drawer, one purpose. One shelf, one category. When a space has a single role, it becomes obvious what belongs there and what doesn't. So clutter stops landing there by default. The change feels practical, not dramatic. Things are easier to find, storage stays under control, and that area no longer needs repeated fixing. The house starts to feel more organized without extra effort. After this adjustment, a different kind of clutter becomes easier to notice. Items you keep around as backups, even though you rarely ever use them. That's what we'll look at next. A lot of clutter doesn't come from what you use every day, it comes from things you're saving just in case. Extra cables in a drawer because you're not sure which one might be needed. Extra containers stacked under the sink. Extra tools, extra mugs, extra supplies you already own, but keep a second or third version of just to feel safe. None of these items cause immediate mess because they stay out of the way. The problem with letting this continue is that backups quietly take over your storage. Drawers get crowded, cabinets feel tight. You start stacking things instead of placing them. When you need something quickly, you have to dig past items you don't actually use. Instead of feeling prepared, your home starts feeling heavy and harder to manage. A more useful way to look at backups is through real use, not possibility. Notice which backups you actually reach for and which ones never move. If something has been sitting untouched for a long time and could be easily replaced if needed, it doesn't need permanent space in your home. Keeping fewer backups doesn't mean being careless. It means keeping storage functional. The difference is noticeable. Shelves feel lighter, drawers open easily, and the items you truly rely on become easier to access. Your home starts supporting your daily life instead of storing insurance for unlikely situations. When this layer of excess is gone, another kind of clutter becomes easier to spot. Items you're keeping for a future version of yourself that no longer matches how you live today. That's where the next habit comes in. Some clutter stays because it belongs to a different version of your life. Hobbies, supplies you rarely touch, clothes for events that never seem to happen, tools for projects you've been meaning to start for years. These items aren't broken and they're not useless, they just don't fit how you actually live right now. The problem with keeping them is that they take up space meant for your real daily routines. Closets get crowded, shelves fill up, and storage starts reflecting plans instead of reality. Every time you look for something you actually use, you're reminded of things you're not doing, which makes the space feel heavier than it needs to be. The way forward is to organize around your current life, not your imagined one. Look at how your days actually go. Keep what supports that version of you. If an item hasn't played a role in your life for a long time and doesn't match your current routines, it doesn't need to stay, even if it once felt important. The result is more than extra space. Your home starts to feel aligned with who you are now. Storage becomes easier, rooms feel more open, and the things you keep feel relevant instead of aspirational. As your space becomes more honest, another pattern often reveals itself. Items that are technically usable but broken, unfinished, or waiting for attention. That's the next habit we need to address. A lot of clutter shows up not because you own too much, but because things are stored in the wrong place. You keep items in rooms where you don't actually use them, cleaning supplies far from where you clean, office tools in a different room, daily items stored too high, too low, or too far away. When it's inconvenient to put something back, it ends up staying out. The problem with letting this continue is that mess becomes automatic. Even if you have storage, you don't use it because it breaks your flow. Surfaces collect items, and you find yourself tidying the same spots over and over instead of finishing the job once. A more effective setup is to store things where the action happens. Items should live as close as possible to where they're used. When storage matches behavior, putting things away becomes almost effortless. The change feels natural. Items go back without thinking, surfaces stay clearer, and clutter drops without you having to create rules or systems. After this adjustment, another issue tends to stand out: containers that are holding mixed items and slowly turning into mini dumping zones. That's where the next habit adds to the mess. I used to think containers would solve everything until I realized they were just hiding the problem. I'd put things into boxes and baskets because it felt organized, out of sight, out of mind. But when I actually needed something, I'd open a container and find a mix of random items I didn't expect. I knew the thing I wanted was somewhere in there, but I always had to dig. What happens when this keeps going is that containers stop being helpful. They turn into places you avoid opening. You keep adding things in, but you rarely take things out. And over time, you end up with storage full of items you don't really use and don't really remember. What worked better for me was changing how I used containers. I stopped treating them like a shortcut. I only let one type of item go into each container. And when a box started feeling too full, I didn't add another one, I removed a few things instead. The difference was immediate. I could see what I had, find things faster, and actually use my storage instead of working around it. The space felt clearer even though I didn't add anything new. After that, another issue became hard to ignore items I kept around even though they were broken or unfinished. That's what we'll talk about next. This one took me a long time to notice because these items don't look like clutter at all. I used to keep things I planned to fix later: a lamp missing a part, clothes that needed a small repair, projects I started but never finished. They stayed in corners on shelves or in boxes not used but not gone either. The problem with letting this continue is that nothing ever moves forward. Broken items just sit there waiting. Unfinished projects keep taking up space. And every time I saw them, they felt like loose ends I never got around to tying up. Even though they weren't in the way physically, they quietly took up room. What helped was making a clear choice instead of letting things linger. If I was going to fix something, I did it soon. If not, I let it go. The same with unfinished projects: either finish them or admit they no longer fit my life. Keeping things in progress forever only kept my space stuck. The effect was very concrete. Shelves immediately felt less crowded. Boxes that used to hold later items could finally be emptied. I stopped moving the same broken things from place to place every time I cleaned. Most importantly, when I looked around, everything I saw was either usable or intentional. Nothing was waiting on me anymore. That made cleaning faster decisions simpler and the space feel done instead of unfinished. After dealing with broken and unfinished items, I started noticing something else. How everyday surfaces kept filling up even when everything technically had a place. That's what we'll look at next. I didn't realize how much this was affecting my day until I paid attention to where I always had to clear space first. My table always had something on it, the counter too. Chairs weren't really for sitting, they were holding bags, clothes, or random items. Nothing looked out of control, but nothing was ever ready to use either. Every task started with moving things out of the way. The problem with letting this continue is that daily life gets slower than it needs to be. Before eating, you clear the table. Before working, you clear the desk. Before sitting, you move things off the chair. You keep handling the same items over and over, even though they don't belong there in the first place. What changed things for me was treating surfaces differently. I stopped thinking of them as temporary space and started treating them as working space. Tables were for eating or working. Counters were for cooking. Chairs were for sitting. If something landed there, it had to move off once the task was done. The effect was very noticeable. Mornings felt smoother because nothing needed to be cleared before using it. Cleaning became faster because surfaces were already mostly empty. Rooms looked calmer not because they were perfectly organized, but because the main areas were ready to use at any moment. Once daily surfaces stopped collecting things, something else became obvious. The overall friction in the house dropped. Fewer small adjustments, fewer interruptions, and less effort just to get through normal routines. That's what we'll wrap up with next. I used to leave things as they were at night thinking it didn't really matter. A few items on the table, clothes on a chair, things left out because I was tired. It never looked bad enough to deal with right away. But every morning I walked into the same half-finished mess and felt like I was already catching up before the day even started. Letting this continue slowly changes how your home feels. Nothing ever fully resets. Mess carries over from one day to the next. Cleaning starts to feel endless because you're always reacting instead of starting fresh. Even when you rest, part of your attention stays on what still needs to be done. What helped was adding a short reset before bed. Not a full clean, just 5 or 10 minutes to put things back where they belong, clear the main surfaces, and leave the space ready for the next day. No pressure, no perfection. Just enough to close the day. Waking up to a calmer space made a bigger difference than I expected. Mornings felt easier. I didn't have to clean before I could start living. The house felt more supportive even on busy days because it wasn't carrying yesterday's clutter forward. That's where all these habits lead. Decluttering isn't about doing more work, it's about setting your space up so life flows with less effort day after day. None of these habits are about being messy or doing something wrong. Most of them come from trying to cope, trying to stay in control, trying to feel prepared, trying to make life easier. The problem is that over time, those habits start working against you. Decluttering isn't about getting rid of everything or keeping a perfect home. It's about noticing what quietly drains your energy and choosing to remove friction where you can. When your space stops asking so much from you, you don't have to push yourself as hard just to get through the day. You don't need to fix everything at once. Pick one habit, one area, one small change. When your home starts supporting how you actually live, not how you think you should live, the difference is immediate, not just in how your space looks, but in how you feel moving through it. That's when decluttering stops being another task on your list and becomes something that genuinely gives energy back.